What if girls never played sports?
For me and many others that I know, sport has helped us establish a true foundation of confidence.
You learn communication, you learn leadership, mental endurance,
respect. I learned how to be reliable.
It's something that really broke boundaries for me.
It's such an empowering thing, and you walk away and you're like, I'm badass. And you take that off the field into anything else that you do in your life.
Once you believe in yourself, that's all that matters.
A coach plays such a crucial role.
I believe that girls need to see someone who looks like them doing the things that they aspire to do.
So now it's our turn.
Our turn.
Our turn. To be the example.
To help her see her potential.
To change the world through sport.
Sport taught us confidence.
To own our strength.
To own our strength. To own our strength.
Let us teach the next generation to own her strength.
To own her strength.
To change her world.
To change her world.
To change her world.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Pride. Yes, we make a shoe for that. Don't let that distract. And while we're at it, happy everything, because it shouldn't just be about a month. It shouldn't just be about a month that we celebrate who we are as a culture. My name's Jorge Casimiro. I'm Nike's Chief Social and Community Impact Officer. And let me start off by just thanking all of you, thanking the folks at the Social Innovation Summit, my friend Zeev, for reminding me not to go over, but for inviting us to be a part of today's session. You know, we make some pretty amazing videos, and that video is special. And I hope that by the end of today's session, you'll have a deeper appreciation for why that video is so special. At Nike, we know that sport has the power to inspire, to unite, like little else does. And like most things in life, it starts with kids. All over the world, active kids do better. They do better in everything they do. They're healthier, and they outperform in their schools, in their communities, and in their future careers. Yet today's kids are part of the least active generation ever. Only 1 in 5 kids is getting the basic minimum requirements that they need in physical activity. And for the first time in history, our kids, including my 3 kids, are predicted to have lifespans shorter than us. Now, that's not okay with me. That's not okay with any of us at Nike. And I'm sure that's not okay with any of you. Now, as a purpose-driven company, we are uniquely positioned to do something about this. Made to Play is our commitment to get kids moving all over the world. From Paris to Shanghai to right here in Los Angeles. We're working with community partners to get more than 17 million kids access to the power of play and to the power of sport. So how do we do this? First, we focus on kids. We keep them at the center of everything that we do, always. That's our North Star. Then we focus on coaching. Think about it. All of us are here today because someone, somewhere, at some time in our lives, was there for us. Someone challenged us, inspired us, and believed in our potential, maybe even before we saw it in ourselves. That's the power of a great coach. And that's why Nike's working with partners to improve not only the quality of coaching, but the quantity of youth coaches as well. We're also working to level the playing field for kids who face the greatest barriers, including girls. In many parts of the world, girls are dropping out of sport and play at twice the rate of boys. Think about that, twice the rate of boys. One big problem is a lack of female coaches. In the US alone, only 23% of youth coaches are women. And that number's gone down in the last 5 years. So we're working to address this coaching gap. Something we're really proud of is our partnership with Mayor Garcetti and the City of Los Angeles right here in LA. Together, we kicked off WeCoach LA to train more female coaches. Nearly 400 women were there at our first event back in April. And as the World Cup kicks off later this week in Paris, we'll use that momentum, we'll use our brand voice to reimagine play, to reimagine sport for girls. Nike's a brand of action, and we're all here because we believe in the power of collective action. We believe in community, the power of community. So I invite you to think about this. You can all do something to change the game for kids, for girls, no matter where you are in the world. And at the same time, you're changing the game for communities and for your fellow person. Think about the difference that you can make in a kid's life, whether it's your own kids, your nieces, your nephews, your neighborhood kids. And if you need some help, if you need some inspiration, check out howtocoachkids.org. This is a tool that we developed together with the Aspen Institute and the US Olympic Committee. And it's got some great tips and some great advice on how to create memorable, fun experiences for kids. Because we could all use some help. I'm a father of 3. I can use some help. So now while you're doing that, and I know some of you already have your phones out because I saw you from the back, so hopefully you're downloading the apps, Google, Android, Apple, whatever it is, take a look at it. But I do want to introduce 2 dear friends, 2 amazing, inspiring women who are leading the charge in these efforts. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Olympic gold medalist Laurie Hernandez and WeCoach founder Megan Bartlett. All right, so thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Laurie, let's start with you. You won 2 Olympic gold medals in the Rio Olympics, right? Laurie was also with us in that video at WeCoach LA. Can you tell us a little bit about, just your history with gymnastics? Was there a role, was there a coach or role model, someone who was there for you?
I feel like I had so many people in my inner circle, especially throughout gymnastics. I was homeschooled since the 3rd grade, and I think a really big part of that was my family and my support system, especially my parents. And I know that, from my dad encouraging me to keep moving forward and my mom taking me to practice, doctor's appointments, all these array of things that I could not have done by myself, and I had a village to help me get there. So I think my mom especially has really taught me, when you're down and you're ready to quit and you want everything to be over, take a couple deep breaths and keep moving forward, because you have a whole group of people that are supporting you and that believe in you.
We were talking at breakfast. I think your mom's going to come with us next year.
My mom is really cool.
She sounds amazing. She sounds amazing. Megan, over to you. There are 6 million volunteer youth coaches in America today, yet only about 1/3 of them are trained.
Yes.
So there's 4 million volunteer coaches out there working with kids that are trying to do their best. Can you tell us a little bit about how statistics like that and information like that inspired you to found WeCoach?
Yeah, absolutely. So both the, only 1/3 of people, coaches who work with young people are trained, and the fact that only 23% of coaches are women, both play into why we decided to start WeCoach, really to address the quality of coaching. I sort of joke, but it's not actually that funny, that the only things you can do with kids that don't require to be trained are to parent them and to coach them. So everything else you do with young people, there's a requirement that you be trained in order to work with them. And so we really want to help push this field forward and make sure that when you're out there working with young people, you have the tools you need to really support their development, not just as an athlete, although that's also really important, but also as a young person who's going to grow up and be a contributing member of society.
Yeah. Laurie, you've talked before about the importance of female role models, female coaches, Latina, because you can't be what you can't see, right? She's awesome, right? I heard the laughing. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what that means to you, and what role do you want to play, as you're thinking about your career, and just as a female, young, Latina, awesome, fun. I keep saying fun because she's so much fun. But what role do you play for the next generation?
I mean, I definitely take it as a really big responsibility to be a role model for those kids, because growing up, I did not see any gymnasts that looked like me. I didn't see, these big curls out there while they're tumbling, or anybody who genuinely looked like me, acted like me out there. And so for a while, you question if it's possible for you to get there or not, because you don't see that representation. And going to the 2016 Olympics and us being one of the most diverse teams we've had in a very, very long time, it was a really big deal. And we had a lot of families that were coming up to me and saying, hey, my daughter didn't think she could be a gymnast. She didn't think she could do sports, but then she saw someone who looked like her and saw it was possible. So now she does gymnastics too. And that is something that I take very seriously, and I hope I get to do that even more in the future.
I was telling Laurie about this. I walked into my daughter Gabriela's bedroom the other day. She's 8. She has her first poster up. Her first poster is of Laurie. It was amazing what we're talking about happening, and it's like we're in the Nike family and we didn't plan it. It just happened. It's all pink, and then there's Laurie on there. I was very happy that it wasn't a boy band.
I had One Direction.
The inspiration is really, really amazing. Megan, back to you. So you're a great follower on Twitter.
Oh, thank you.
Check her out. Great follower on Twitter. And we work with you in a lot of different areas. I think one of the things that we do that I'm really proud of is our employees are engaged in this work. Our employees are out there, because our employees, 74,000 all over the world in all of our stores, and we have a program called Nike Community Ambassadors, where folks like Megan train them on how to be coaches, and then they volunteer in their communities. And they're there every week, whether it's a school or a rec center or a community center. Many times the only stability that some kids see, the consistency that some kids see. As you've been training our employees, but also others that you train, because you train a lot of coaches, what are what are the top pieces of advice that you have for them?
The Nike Community Ambassadors are the most enthusiastic coaches out there, so it's a really fun project to work on. What we try to help coaches see and really understand is how powerful sport can be. Some of them are already sold because they love the sport they grew up playing. They obviously, in the case of Community Ambassador, they choose to work for a company that stands for the power of sport. But I think they often forget, or often don't pay attention to, the fact that sport is uniquely suited to help young people develop, to help them obviously become physically healthy, to make sure that we're attending to their mental health, and to equip them and sort of help their brains develop in the best way possible so that they're open to learning. And I think sport gets sort of minimized in all of those roles. So first we try and make sure they understand the power that they have, and then that power becomes realized when they invest in relationships with young people. That the most important thing they can do is sort of stop and get to know a young person. Once they do that, then the young person invests back in them, and they can really sort of take that relationship and do all the things that we want them to do. So most important is that ability to form a relationship, so that when you start to build skills and you get to learn how to make your first left-handed layup and do all the things that our coaches are helping young people do, they can actually sort of build on that, the confidence, they can see themselves get better, they start to go from I can't to I can, and that all comes through the coach investing in them as people.
That's great. Just when you're talking about the left-handed layup, my 6-year-old son is a lefty, and we were playing basketball the other day, and I kept doing it the way I do it.
Yeah.
And even as someone who works on this every day, I had to just make that mental shift to think about how do you do it if you're left-handed, right? And what does that mean? You talked about something over breakfast being biologically disrespectful.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of coaching?
So one of the things that we've been really lucky to do is work with some neuroscientists and learn more about the brain. And anybody who starts learning about the brain probably falls into a deep brain hole like I did, because the brain is so fascinating. But what we know about learning is, one thing is that being physically active helps the brain learn. It turns on all the parts of the brain that we need in order to retain information, in order to be ready to take in new things, which is part of the point of sport, right? Learning new things, being able to take things in. Also being able to then go into the classroom and have a sort of warmed up brain for learning. It's incredibly important. What else we know is that the way that we teach is actually significantly biologically disrespectful. All of you sitting out there and us sitting up here is not the way to learn. We should have had you run some laps before we got up here and told you about the power of sport. And we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that actually pays attention to what kids need. So taking physical activity out of schools, making 5 more minutes of in-seat time is not worth it in the end. Every neuroscientist worth their salt would tell you that the opposite is true, that actually we should be putting more sport, more physical activity back into learning.
When we started this work, we went out and we looked at kids, right? I said we keep kids at the center. So what are kids doing? They're always moving.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kids are always, like, if you don't do anything, kids are wired to move. They're made to play. And you think about the importance of play. It's one of the rights in the UN Convention on the Rights of a Child, the right to play. And so when you think about everything that we do as a society that's wired to stop them from moving, and you think about the detriment that's happening there, good segue, back to you, Laurie. So all kids are made to play. We just talked about that. What did it mean to you, doing gymnastics, doing ballet when you were younger? What did it teach you, and what do you think young girls, young Latina girls, kids in general, stand to benefit from play and sport?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I took away from sport was the fact that physically, I mean, it's definitely a really big metaphor for life. Physically, especially in gymnastics and many other sports, you are knocked down. And by knocked down, I mean like you're like face on the floor, rest of the body on the floor, knocked down. And when you're a kid, you just kind of hop back up and you're like, okay, let's do it again until we keep trying and until we can actually get it right. And sport will push you down, and it hurts sometimes. And I just remember there are times where my mom is like, hey, like, it's okay to cry. You can be discouraged. You can be frustrated, but get back up. And I saw this, like, it's okay, and she was like, and if you have to get back up crying, then you get back up crying, but you get back up. And I think that, again, like you said before, kids are made to move. Let's teach them to get back up.
That's great. Thank you. All right, so to close this out, same question for the both of you. We'll start with you, Megan. When we think about coaching, and there's so many elements of coaching. You got life coaches, and you got parent coaches, you got sports coaching. We're not talking about specialization in a sport, but just coaching, being there for a kid, connecting with a kid, making sure that they have self-directed play, and that they're having fun, right? So as all of these wonderful people in the audience here today, and they're going to tell all of their friends about it as well, as they're thinking about what they can do to make a difference in a kid's life, where should they start?
I think they should start with the kids they know, and they should just get out there and do it. Did I just say just do it? How did I keep that off? But really, what I love about the How to Coach Kids app is that it's how to coach kids, not how to coach sports, right? And we all know a kid, we all have kids in our community, we all have kids within this much reach, and making the time and making the effort to spend with them is more than worth it.
Awesome. And Laurie, from your perspective, what's the one thing that you would say, start with this?
I mean, I think if you have that fire in you to go and help others, dive into it. I know that there are times where in gymnastics, I'll be super scared to do a skill, and I know that the skill isn't gonna do itself. I have to actively go and pursue it, even if I'm afraid. So start somewhere and dive into it. I mean, go head first, be there for those around you, because at the end of the day, I think that community is really what matters most, and the fact that we actively went out to help others.
That's awesome. So there's your call to action. We always talk about calls to action at these kinds of events. Be there, dive right in, head first, just do it. Make a difference in a kid's life. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Megan.